This video is brought to you by Scopic.com. Get yours now.
Hey guys, this is Phil from Untitled.com. Welcome back. This is the Galaxy J3 2016 edition. Note that this is a Korean version, so if you're living in the different areas or different country, especially in North America, you will not get the same spec version as I'm holding right now. So this one comes with a Snapdragon 410 quad-core processor, 1.5GB of RAM, and 8 megapixels of camera and 5 megapixels of camera on the front side. So let's start with the good things. Alright, firstly, it's a great build. Alright, it's got a design that not exactly everybody likes. It's got a two-tone design, double tone, black and white, and I'm personally a fan of this, not all. But despite of that, the build quality is pretty good. The frame is not metal, but plastic, unlike the Galaxy J5 and the J7 2016 edition. But even with that, even with all the plastic build, the build itself is very solid, very sturdy. It's very well built, and you'll be able to feel that it's constructed very well when you hold it in your hand. Snapdragon 410 quad-core processor isn't exactly the fastest processor available, and you will definitely be able to feel that. But overall, this has been pretty snappy. Multitasking is pretty good, and everyday tasks like going to the Google Play Store, web browser, going to settings, and etc. whatnot works pretty fast considering its prices. And the screen is also decent. It's not exactly the brightest or the most high-resolution screen that you can find out there. You can change the screen mode if you don't like the color of the display, although I think the default value of adaptive display does it pretty well. It's not with the RGB layout, so you'll be able to look at some of the subpixels, but considering the resolution, prices, I would say the display is actually pretty good. And they included a handy function that was firstly introduced in the Galaxy S6, where you double tap the home key to quickly launch the camera. So it will launch the camera, and then not only that, the gesture or the actions are pretty quick, but launching of the camera itself is pretty fast as well. So when your phone is turned off, you just tap twice on the home key and you'll be taken directly to the camera within 1 or 2 seconds. And the battery life is another thing that I was really happy about. So it's got a 2600 mAh battery, and it's replaceable. So if your old battery is dying out, you can easily replace them with a new battery. So without any power saving mode, I'm always on the full LTE network. So if you are connected to the Wi-Fi network more often than I am, then you'll be able to get more. And with the power saving mode, because I haven't used any, you'll be able to gain more. I was able to get more than 4 hours of the screen on time. It was very stable. It was a 4-hour mark every single day I tried using it. So I would say that it's safe to assume that it's going to serve you well for the full day with 4 hours of screen on time. Alright, I wouldn't have started this review if everything on this was cool. Despite the low prices of the Galaxy J3, there are some downcomings that I don't like about this phone. First, to start with, is the storage. It comes with 8GB of storage, and 8 might sound enough, but after all the built-in apps and everything, first time you get this phone, you'll be able to utilize about 3.6GB of the storages. And that's definitely not quite a lot. Even if you don't install a whole lot of apps, your cache will quickly fill them up. So I'm the person here who thinks at least 16GB of storage should be installed, whatever the price point of the phone is. Yes, thankfully you can install the SD card, and yes, you can install the apps on your SD card, but not specifically you can install them. You can install the apps on your device, and then you can move them forward to the SD card. But what I don't like over here is the annoying processes of it. Going to the Android Marshmallow, it's gotten more of an hassle than it used to be. So when you are in an app, let's say that you are in an app where you want to transfer, let's say something like a music app over here. Nope, not all the apps support them, so you gotta choose wisely which of the apps that can support, because it used to show which of the apps could have been moved to the SD card. Moving on to Android Marshmallow, you won't be notified if an app can be moved or not unless you tap to give them a try. Alright, thankfully this benchmark app over here can be moved. You are going to be touching the change SD card, and you'll have to go through the process. And you have to do this to every single app you want to move to the SD card. So I would say that this is a very annoying process, and this is not going to be the ultimate answer for the lack of the storage. And another thing that you wouldn't have expected is the lack of Mbo Sensor. This has been the trend for the cheap phones lastly, but I didn't expect that the J3 would lack it as well. Since J3 isn't exactly the lowest of the lowest, it's not like the J1 or the J2 or the E series, but It lacks the ambient sensor, so you have to change your brightness manually. And there's one thing called the outdoor mode. It's going to boost up your screen brightness for 15 minutes. And even with that, the screen isn't that bright. So when you're outdoor, when you're in a direct sunlight, you won't be exactly able to read every single letter on your screen very comfortably. And another thing that I want to point out is the camera. Of course, I don't expect like a Galaxy S7 quality on a $200 phone, but the camera quality is subpar terrible. The focus is terrible, the white balance is terrible. When you're taking a photo in a darker environment, the white balance wobbles really messily around. It's green, it's red, it's yellow, it's blue. It changes like all the seconds. As you're looking at the sample shots, the macro focusing is really bad, the quality is bad, it's really fuzzy, noisy. The camera here is simply terrible. I've seen better cameras in the similar price point, so I would say that this is a bad camera no matter what the price point of this guy is. And another thing is speaker. So speaker is there. It's not exactly my favorite place, but it's okay because camera is sticking out a little, so when your phone is on the floor, it will still have some space to yield the sound outside. It's loud enough for you to enjoy music, but the quality is simply terrible, period. And another thing that I don't like is a 1.5 GB RAM. Of course, 720p, Snapdragon 410, 1.5 GB of RAM, that sounds pretty good. But Samsung has a weird way of RAM management, and you will see refreshment of the apps more often than you will on the other phones. Last but not least is related to battery. Battery, I thought you said battery is good. Well, it is good, except for that it takes 3 hours to charge it. It doesn't support any kind of fast charging, nor does it support like a 2 amps of an input, so it will take 3 full hours to fully charge your battery from 1 to 100. And to make things even worse, the battery cover is extremely hard to take apart, and it's even harder to put it back. You have to press it really hard, like really hard to put it back on. So I decided to not remove the battery cover as whole, even in the emergency situations. So that was a quick look at the Galaxy J3. Considering its prices, I would say it's a good phone unless you do anything serious on your phone. The screen is good, the battery life is good, overall it's got a great build quality, it's not exactly premium, but I wouldn't personally suggest it due to the 3 hours of charging time, lack of internal storage, and a lack of ambient sensor, and terrible camera, which of those 4 things that are not to be found in other cheaper phones. If you want a cheap, well-built Samsung, here it is, but if you expect any kind of handiness, this is not the right guy for you. Alright guys, this was the review for the Samsung Galaxy J3 2016. I had really high standards, high hopes for this guy, but even considering its price points, I can't really say it's a good phone. That 3 hours of charging the battery was definitely not seen in a recent history. Alright, that was a quick look at the Galaxy J3 2016. You can meet us on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and Google+. And, of course, ciao!